If everyone can turn their mics on.
Thank you for
Calling this meeting to order, if everyone could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll start by first saying that we are returning from executive session to discuss a real property transaction. I'll also, at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda. First is Gusta, second is Deanna. All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. So I'm going to move into some announcements before we get to our superintendent's report. First, I want to share that tonight is a study session. There are no public comments during study sessions. Residents may attend the next scheduled business meeting on October 3rd and/or contact the board via email at boe@shenschools.org with any comments or questions. All questions come into the Office of Public Information and are shared with the board and/or superintendent as appropriate. Policy questions or concerns are typically addressed by the board president. Operational questions or concerns are typically addressed by the superintendent and/or designee. I also want to share with the board, I put on everyone's, in front of everyone, the BOCES report. It's their annual report, and there's a cover letter from the superintendent. It notes that this year is their 75th celebration since inception, which was 1948. And it also, another highlight from it is the timeline showing that what they've accomplished over the years, but specifically in 2020 is when they opened Airline Academy and then also eventually rolled out Maywood Building and the new Albany CTE building. So quite a bit of work in the last 3 years. And they also were recently recognized for their Champions of Change, specific to their work with women in the trades. And I thought that was something very exciting to read about. They also recently received the Nonprofit of the Year by the Albany Business Review, and they'll be recognized for that. And if you're looking through it, you'll see one of our seniors in there, Riley Trudeau. She's also a Team 20 member, and I believe it's machine manufacturing that she is doing in the picture, so I was very excited to see one of our own. With that, I will let's move into the superintendent's report. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hoffman. So while people are still fresh and feeling all brand new, we're going to actually take a picture. So this is school board recognition, and one of the things that each year we think about it, but then we think about it after the board meeting is over with and people leave. So in front of each board member is just a token of our appreciation as a school community for each board member. To say thank you very much for your service, recognizing that the time you put in. Certainly, this is not meant to be indicative of that, but certainly a token appreciation. Thank you. And we also like to have a picture with the board as a board, so we could also post on our website and otherwise to express to the broader community, thank you very much for board during the School Board Recognition Week. So if you don't mind, indulge Kelly. She's going to tell us where to line up.
Okay. We just over here. And I always have pictures. It's always over there.
So where do you want us, Kelly?
That's a great question.
Where's your send that?
Yeah, is there like a general,
Like stick a logo up. Well, we could do with that background, but we'd have to all get up and walk down.
yeah, that might take a.
It's like herding cats, this group.
No, put a website on it.
Let's do that.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's good.
How's that?
Yeah.
Cal, we do that.
All right, beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's the S?
Trip hazard.
I'll be the H.
I know, I should have gave you a warning, right?
Yes.
Yes, Cecily.
What do you have? Should put the little people in the
Yeah.
front.
I got you.
How are you?
Fine, we'll do it.
Oh, you okay, Violet? What do you think?
It's gotta go.
Another way of
We're
it.
sorry.
We're just gonna.
This is gonna drive me nuts.
Sure.
Jackson, can you please?
You want the owl on the
Thanks a lot, Jackson.
Jackson's like, it's okay. I have a reputation of
You need
hope.
my owl? Oh, well, that owl.
Thank you. That's true.
Now I'm gonna
We got, all right, there we go. I'm just gonna have this side, if you could all, like the three on the end over here, if you could just step in a little closer to each other, there we go. All right, just keep smiling until I tell you to stop smiling. This ensures that everyone's eyes are open at least once. That means someone's eyes were closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Robinson, thank you for that. We also, we have cards here, we're told from Octave. And they're just adorable, so we haven't gotten through them all, but we will.
So again, thank you very much for indulging in that. I think that's something that each year we think about taking the photos and posting, boy, we didn't take photos. This year Kelly was prompt about reminding us that we should take the photo, so appreciate it. So a couple items on our study session for tonight that just wanted to do some preview. We're very fortunate to have the first one, transportation related. As the board knows, we've been having a lot of conversation around transportation and electrification of transportation. Then ironically, there are certain things that's happening within the transportation department that many people from outside of the school environment are not aware of in terms of how they're also part of the student management, making sure that how kids behave and otherwise. Transportation has a major role in that. So Al approached me several months back and said they've been doing a lot of work, he and Belinda, with our school principals, so I thought this would be a great thing to bring forward. So we're gonna talk about the transportation piece of it as well. Matt Davis and Michelle Mylod is going to, after Dr. Wilson Turner previewed the grants, Kathy Chase is out tonight, so I think Matt's gonna pick up the slack for Kathy's piece of it. And we're always excited about the curriculum pieces, kind of show all the activity that happens during the school year. We have Callie Gasper, who's partnered with Mosaic. I'll be picking up the construction piece, and Callie will be providing some background on some of the schedules as we move forward. But before we do the presentation, just want to acknowledge, we also, from time to time, actually it seems like every year, we have a member of the SAGE graduate cohort. Shen is a popular place where people want to observe effective governance. And so we have here with us Wendy Moran. Wendy is in the SAGE doctoral program. She'll be interviewing myself. Wendy, can you just wave so the board members can see you? She'll be interviewing myself, she'll be interviewing Mrs. Hoffman, and another board member, I'm not sure if we had designated. Jason, as a part of her doctoral studies as well. So we're pleased that she's here to just kind of witness this board and then re-engage in the part of her doctoral studies moving forward. So again, I want to acknowledge her before we continue on. So with this point, Mr. Karam, oh, I'm sorry. Belinda, Mrs. Govich is going to actually do the presentation on the first part. That's the tag team, right?
Tag team, yes. Thank you so much, members of the board and Dr. Robinson, for inviting us here tonight to kind of give you a little bit of an update on some of the things that we've been doing and working on. Thank you. In transportation. So typically we always hear a lot of negative comments, especially on social media when we advertise that we're looking for school bus drivers, because in case anybody wasn't aware, we're kind of having a shortage on that right now. So we do, at Shen, we do a great job of advertising and trying to hold some things to bring a spotlight to that and to recruit new drivers onto our team. And a lot of the things we hear are negative, and some of the negative things we hear are, oh, the kids are really bad, nobody wants that job, administrators don't care, nobody does anything about the kids' bad behavior. But our data tells a different story about that. And tonight I'd like to share some of that with you. In the past 9 years, we've gone from a high of approximately 1,000 bus referrals per school year to a low of approximately 433, which is pretty significant. In 2023, in the school year, we had a total of 758 individual routes. We were responsible for the transportation of approximately 10,050 students, and that covers both private and public schools. Of the 10,000, approximately 6,300 ride daily. I'm gonna bombard you with some math here, so bear with me. And if you combine that, because each student rides AM and PM, so if you take that number and combine it with AM and PM rides, we come up with about 12,600 daily passengers, right? So that's how many daily passengers are on a school bus that a school bus driver is dealing with throughout the year. And then if we kind of go a little bit further, we multiply that with 180 school days, we're well over 2 million passengers. 2 million passengers a school year, right? So of that, think about that, 433 bus referrals. That's all that was written out of 2 million passengers, right? So that's 0.19%, which is minuscule in the grand scheme of things. So where student management is definitely, could be an issue, it is definitely not an issue at Shen, we are proud to say. So bus referrals continue to trend downward, with 433 written in the 22-23 school year and 556 referrals written the prior school year. This is because we encourage our employees to take care of the bus issues themselves whenever possible and to follow the referral process, which is speak to the student, have a verbal conversation with them one-on-one, then maybe give them a bus consequence, which could be like, you move your seat away from your friends for a week, to the front, which apparently no one wants to sit at. And then from there, if we still see the behavior, then we might go on to other things where, I may board the bus, or we may reach out to the school for their assistance, which could be then at that point the bus referral. One of the other things we did is we used our safety meetings to give presentations on student management and the bus referral processes, explaining why we need to try to resolve bus issues before resorting to the referrals. We had significantly fewer referrals written this year. 26% of the ones that were written were resolved at the lowest level, meaning the drivers handled it themselves by following the process that we have created. And in some cases, when they did write a referral, they made it clear that they resolved the issue. So we didn't need to go any further, and referrals didn't need to be written. And we believe that the bus referral process we have put into place, the added safety refreshers that we have, and our collaboration with the school administration helped us continue to build positive relationships with school administration and staff. We empowered and supported our drivers and attendants and create a positive, safe, and healthy bus environment for students. So what have we done to reduce referrals and improve student management? Well, we implemented a student management referral process that we enforce each year. We asked for and received from you, the Board of Education, as well as our district administration, approved the addition of more safety and PDS refreshers, where we gave presentations and trainings on effective student management and the importance of trying to resolve issues on the bus ourselves before resorting to the bus referrals and other safety-related topics, in return raising our staff's knowledge base and professionalism. We worked very closely with drivers and attendants to help resolve bus behaviors before submitting referrals to the school. Many drivers and attendants were successful at mitigating behaviors themselves, not requiring a referral to be submitted to the school. We collaborated with schools, reaching out to building principals, associate principals, principal aides, school psychologists, and CSEs, where we work together to determine the best course of action to take to support the bus team in ensuring a safe and successful ride for the students. We also have access to utilizing the IEP Direct portal, which allowed us to glean information and strategies on students that we may not have been able to have before, and we're able to use to help them have a successful bus ride. We also analyze students' demographic data to help us understand the students better and share within the parameters of the regulations information with our staff to provide a safe and effective transportation experience. And doing this, we were able to find that 72 students who received referrals had 504 plans or IEPs where transportation was not a related service. Meaning they might have had something, but transportation was not that, so we didn't know the proper way to maybe mitigate circumstances. But by diving into that and doing that and working with the school buildings, we were able to make those students successful on the bus as well. And finally, I'll close with just a graph here where you can see where we've been and where we are today. We've made great strides in dealing with student management issues by implementing process and adhering to it. We built relationships and collaborated with school staff, providing support to our transportation staff and making sure we follow up on every case presented to us.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Just one, going back to your initial comment, and I think all of this data is great. So what are we finding now that, I came up at a PTA meeting too, where we can't find drivers? What's our driving? Is it still the training? What are you seeing now as a number one? Because I'm sure you're pulling in while you're.
The school bus driver shortage is still our biggest stressor, if you will, right? The foot traffic just simply has dried up. Where we used to get about upwards of 70, almost 80 people come in every year, we're probably down to like 30 every year. It's not enough to sustain. It is a struggle. The transportation team, and my hat's off to each and every one of them, drivers, bus attendants, dispatchers, office staff, mechanics, they have all been doing a really phenomenal job to gap that shortage. What's it gonna take? I really don't know. I don't have the answer to that, but it is a, we do encourage the community, talk amongst each other, encourage family members. This is a part-time job. If you're looking for a part-time gig, come see us. It's really a great, rewarding job.
Out of the 30, if you get 30, how many make it through?
So, typically about 30% of that.
Okay. And reason because they don't.
There's a lot of reasons. One, it takes probably 3 to 4 months to get someone licensed.
That's just overdrive.
There are, if they don't have another income, that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't want to finish because they just, it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, gotcha.
There's a lot of rules, regulations, that we have to follow. It is a safety sensitive occupation. There's a sundry of reasons why they leave. Yeah.
Thanks, Al.
So how long do people tend to stay that do make it through that process?
So once they make it through, pretty much they stay. Rarely do we lose them. We lose people because they're moving out of state, because their significant other is now retired and they want to go somewhere else, or they have grandkids that now they need to take care of. Health issues. Rarely do they leave for anything else. Rarely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Al. Thanks,
you.
Nice job. Next portion of transportation.
The bus electrification. All right, so you want to go to the next one, Dr. Thompson, please? The last update, when I was here before you, we had met with our consultant. We met with other stakeholders. We also submitted a plan to try to get the construction done on 2 chargers for the 4 buses that were approved by the board and the community voted them in. That plan was submitted to SED. We were hoping that we could have had that done before the winter sets in, and the buses would be placed on order and brought to us. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and I will address that here in the next couple of slides. Next slide, please. So what I want to just kind of remind the board of is our electrical capacity, and really this is the crux of the problem for the electrification of the bus fleet. Currently, we have 2 megawatts of power coming into the campus. We're like almost at the max output, if you will. When we do get the 4 buses in and there are 2 chargers, we will be maxed out. We can't add any more buses. It doesn't matter how much free money is out there, how many grants there are, whatever. If you don't have the power, you cannot buy electric buses. There is a midterm goal that we should try to go for, and that is work with National Grid to bring in 1 wire that will give us enough electricity to power 84 buses. There is a cost of about $3 million. That's what our engineer company had told us. And the long term would be, it's gonna require that the district build a substation on the property, and again, there's a lot of money associated with that. On the low end, 28 million, Augie Freeman had estimated probably a little be more than that. So until the mid goal is reached, we really cannot move beyond the 4 buses. Next one, please. You probably already heard that New York State, NYSERDA put out an electric school bus roadmap. I'm going to spend a few minutes on this and talk through it. I've read the roadmap in detail. We've asked Cornice Technology, our consultant, to also give us a report on it. The report makes a lot of assumptions that really are not grounded in reality. For example, one of the assumptions made is that the cost of the electric school bus will be on par with the internal combustion engine buses. In speaking with our vendors, the answer I get is the opposite. Actually, the cost of these buses is climbing up, not going down. There's really nothing new in the roadmap that will lead us to believe that Shen should change its approach to how we're going to convert the fleet to all electric. The roadmap doesn't really remove the major roadblocks to fleet electrification, which is, in my estimation, should be the fast tracking of the infrastructure to bring in the required electrical need. Again, without that, we simply can't move forward. The roadmap glosses over the electrical capacity that school districts will need, and if the power utilities are able to generate the required power. The lack of electrical capacity affects our bus purchase and infrastructure needs. So example for us here at Shen, we will ultimately require the construction and installation of a substation to provide anywhere between 9 to 13 megawatts of electric power to charge our fleet of 217 buses. The roadmap states that there are funds available for all school districts to offset the cost of the bus purchase and infrastructure. In reality, the roadmap focus is on the disadvantaged communities, rural communities, and tribal communities. The roadmap pushes school districts to go with a level 2 charger. I don't know if you know the difference between 1, 2, and 3, but level 2 for a school bus takes about 10 to 12 hours to recharge. That's on a nice typical day. When you factor in cold weather, and if it's a long snap of cold weather, it will take a whole lot longer than the 10, 12 hours to recharge. There's a lot of operational issues that we don't have time tonight to get into that speak to why that is not such a great idea to go with all level 2 chargers and just a handful of level 3s. Level 2s, by the way, they're great for the power grid because they're not drawing as much juice off the power grid, and I think that's why they're being pushed. A level 3, you can adjust it through computer software in terms of how many kilowatts you want it to generate to recharge your bus. With and or without any grant monies, our school district, again, can't move forward with the full electrification until the power capacity is increased. And as you know, we do have the 2027 deadline where we can only buy electric buses in the 2035 when we have to be fully converted to electric or something else that's zero emission. Again, the cost of the electric school bus is underestimated. The maximum price noted in the roadmap is $400,000. Currently, the base price is $425,000 and will continue to climb because under the LGS contract, where the PPI, or the producer price index, used to go up once a year. It now goes up every quarter, and it could go up as high as 5%, 6% in some cases. And the other thing is capacity. The last time I spoke with the vendors, they weren't comfortable in their OEM producing enough electric buses to meet the needs of New York State. However, here of late, the OEMs are saying yes, in the next few years, whatever that means, however much few to them means, they're gonna be able to increase the production of electric buses. The roadmap suggests that districts who don't have the required space to install chargers to look at moving to new sites. I won't get into that, I'll just leave it at that. Lastly, if the bus replacement remain the same, and the bus manufacturers aren't able to produce the numbers that are needed to convert all the buses in New York State, I don't see how we're gonna meet the 2027 or the 2035 deadline. And regardless of all these obstacles, we here at Shen will continue to move prudently and make decisions based on the facts as we learn them in our planning and execution process. Next one, please. The two funding opportunities that have been talked about in the news here lately, one is the New York State School Bus Incentive Program, and the other one is the EPA. I can tell you the EPA, they've learned a huge lessons, and you can see on there, they're gonna require 3 letters certified by the board. One is called the school board certification, the other one is a district certification to apply with a third party on behalf of the school district, and the utility partner certification. The reason why, because school districts have put in for EPA money, have gotten it, and when school districts started kind of like backward planning, okay, now we got all this money, let's go, get ready to buy these buses, they found out they don't have the space for the infrastructure. They don't have the electrical capacity to charge these buses that they want to buy. So some school district, I know one school district here in the state of New York gave back $8.5 million because of space and the electrical power. They simply don't have it. Another school district gave back $1.5 million. So EPA has learned that they can't give you the money and then hold it for however many years it's going to take to get that electrical power in. You take it, the board's got to certify that we have a plan to get everything in place and move forward from there.
What is the utility partner requirement? What is that?
So basically, we would give a National Grid, and they have to commit that yes, they can provide the power, and this is how long it's going to take, and from based on whatever that completion date as to when we can buy the buses. I believe the EPA gives us, if you put in for that round up until 2026 to have purchase the buses, or to have your power in place so you can get the buses and start operating.
And could you also clarify what buses we budgeted for? Are they Type A or Type C?
On this last round,
Yes.
we purchased 4 Type C buses.
Okay.
Those are your electric buses.
Well, we're going to purchase.
Right, they haven't
Well,
been made
right.
yet.
Yeah.
We haven't purchased yet, right?
I want to make sure for the record, that's clear.
Okay.
So, next one, please. So, as I stated, SED would not allow a change order to the current construction schedule, which we were hoping that they would. So now, everything is kind of like on the back burner. We had to resubmit, the district had to resubmit a plan for new construction for the 2 chargers. That was recorded as received by SED on 9/15. The SED engineer reviews are currently reviewing projects submitted 6/23/23. That's 15 weeks out on the review time. We're working on our consultant to potentially find a solution to the charging issue so we can move forward with the bus purchase. The vendor will not go out and plop the money on our behalf to buy these buses, to have them built, buy them, get them, and hold on to them while we're still trying to figure out the power generation here and how we're gonna charge them. That's a lot of money, and they will start eating up, it will eat up out of their profits because they have to, cover the interest on the money that they put out there as an outlay. So until we have the charger situation fixed, one way or another, short-term, long-term, those buses are on hold. So we need to get the charging infrastructure really in place as quickly as possible, because the longer we wait, gotta go back to that PPI increase, the vendor is not gonna eat that PPI increase. So whatever was approved by the voters is not gonna change if we wait too long before we put the order in to purchase those buses. So we think we have a solution. Next one, please. So the first solution, and is the one I recommend, is that we buy 50 kilowatt chargers. These are chargers that are on wheel that you actually use in the shop. They're single point. They only charge one bus at a time, but they can charge one bus over 5 hour period. Not a big deal. And they run about 36,000 each. The other solution is a level 1 charger. A level 1 charger takes about 34 hours to charge 80% of the battery capacity. That's really not going to work for us. That's on a nice day. On a cold day, probably be a whole lot longer than that. So we have $50,000 that were approved by the board and the voters as part of the bus purchase to buy a charger for the shop. I would recommend that we look at maybe getting 2, and we would have to run some wires, some conduit inside the shop from the electric panel to the maintenance base, and some 480 volt, a couple of 480 volt plugs, so we can use those chargers. And I think that's the quickest way to get us off the ground and running and get these 4 electric buses in, so we can start experimenting with them and gathering our data and learning for ourselves what all that means.
So if we go with this option, we don't need to go with the option with working with National Grid to get the new wiring?
We would still have to do
We still
that.
have to do
This
that,
is
even for this? Okay.
eventually you're gonna need it for the shop anyway,
Right.
so this kind of like 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, okay.
And it'll get us off the ground and running while we're waiting on SED, because that could be months before they approve the installation of the 2 chargers that will be coming with the buses.
Okay.
Questions?
Just a couple comments, Al. A couple comments that wanted to clarify. Al made a point in the beginning about capacity coming into the campus. This, not capacity coming into the bus garage. This is capacity coming to the campus. And that's an important point. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. We have a local automobile vendor, owner, wanted to try to partner with us because part of their big thing is try to get charging stations to promote people buying electric cars. And we don't have the capacity to put in extra charging stations, because you gotta think about it, this campus was not built with that in mind. And when you think about it, every year, every time we expand the campus, every time we add technology in the campus, there's power utilization. And so outside of the conversation around electric buses, we, again, based upon what we think our footprint is going, it was manageable for our utilization. Clearly, it's not manageable for our utilization, period. So the big question that we have is, once we get back to, and we're looking into some funding situation right now and trying to talk to a whole bunch of folks, particularly at the federal level, this midterm solution, for example, of, okay, who's paying for when the wire comes from NIMO to their pole, to our pole, that's a lot of money. that piece of it, and that's a potential $3 million range, just to give us a little capacity to not overuse what we have existing and still basically potentially cover about half, if not even half of the fleet that because I think we're looking at maybe 210
It's like a
buses.
third.
But so give you some perspective on that, right? The bigger issue is even here with $20 to $28 million. We'll have more conversation with it. I'm not poo-pooing that piece of it. However, that's a real big conversation that to say to the community that we're going to leverage that much capacity. Because again, the reason why I said we for the entire campus is 2. We're looking to almost triple, quadruple this capacity. And we still have the question, even if we were to commit to do the substation, do they even have the power draw to feed into this piece of it? So again, these are big questions that's out there, and as more and more organizations get into this conversation on the private sector side, be it you hear expansion about global foundries, you hear expansion of Micron, I think it's a company out in Syracuse coming in. The capacity doesn't exist for those things to happen effectively. So I'm sharing that with the board and community because, as Al mentioned, it's not a lack of desire or intent. It's simply a lack of capacity. So we hope that because we want to get electric buses on hand, because we want to understand the functioning of electric buses. We want to experience those things. We know we have some local school districts that have had some less than positive experience with electric buses, and so we're learning from some of their experiences as well. And this is it's a Band-Aid approach, right? So essentially, in an ideal world, it's almost when you think about having your battery charger that you may keep in your garage plugged in. So if you have that unfortunate situation of your car battery being dead, you could get a quick jump, but it's not designed to jump every car in the neighborhood, right? And I say that because I want you to kind of have that perspective. And so we want to be able to get this. So at least when we get the 2, or depends on how fast the manufacturing of those buses come, we can start seeing how those buses actually play out in the fleet. You know, and actually, what does that mean for route? What can they really do or can't do? Before, again, as we said when we went out for the referendum, before we go full bore with making purchasing of buses that right now is almost actually more than twice the cost of their fuel based counterparts. So I want for the board to have that perspective, and so we're going to go through this. There's some additional costs associated with this, costs related to the internal work. I mean, we put on here can be done in-house, but there's a cost associated because we have to hire electricians, and we have electricians that we hire to do in-house mini projects and things of that nature. So there are costs associated with that piece of it. So in the coming weeks, in coming week actually, so we'll be hammering out these details of saying, okay, what does that internal work actually entail? How fast can an internal work turn around? What's the availability of these chargers? How fast can we have them in relationship to the ordering of the bus? Because 2 things, we don't want to get chargers and have to wait 8 months for buses, right? Because you see the dilemma in that piece of it. So we're really trying to figure out different angles of trying to get the buses here, knowing that it's not the way that we would we plan to charge and house buses in the long term, but at least to start giving us a clearer direction in terms of what's real and from a functionality perspective for us as a system. So we'll see how this plays out. And the good thing about it, with these chargers, we were planning, as Al mentioned, we were planning to have them in the bus garage anyway, because as you're repairing buses, you need to have the capacity to charge them. So it's not like you're buying it and then you won't use it again. It's something that will be used in the foreseeable future as well. So it's a worthwhile investment in that sense of it. A little bit more costly than we initially anticipated. However, we have to try to figure out how we effectively do that. And hopefully some of those funding opportunities that are out there will help defray some of these costs. And that's yet to be seen, because I think a lot of the funding opportunities are still trying to figure out how do they best fund what and who. and we want to be able to have, not a thought, but a clear plan. Fund us because here's what we'll do with it, and not fund us and we think this is what we might want to do with it, right? That's what I mean by that. So more to come, and again, I want to share with the board because sometimes these things go trickle, and then they speed out. And so we want to get into that mode of really trying to identify these things, where the time in, what's the cost. In fact, I think it was, you shared something today about the infrastructure, potential infrastructure costs. We're trying to, again, none of these things are going to be cheap, to get the infrastructure modified to accommodate this new charging plug. And so we'll see in the coming weeks, and hopefully before we get too deep in the winter, we have a clear path. We anticipate what is saying the manufacturer now, I was thinking about, well, how long for buses?
About 7 months.
7 months, so yeah, so we're really talking about a long time from now.
And that can only happen after SED improves.
No, this is a whole different conversation. We're running with the SED conversation too.
Okay.
So the
That's,
SED,
it's treated as new construction.
two
That's
different
it.
things. If
Okay.
SED gives us some clearance on the outside charging capacity, that's one thing. That's something that with this law, we're gonna have to figure out anyway.
Okay.
So we're gonna go through that process now. Cal and her team are working through some of those kind of things. So once we get some clearance, that's the longer term, right? Where does that come? What does the infrastructure entail? And then hopefully different conversations statewide and otherwise will be about power capacity across the state. It's a real concern across the state, not only a concern for Shen. Jason.
Yeah, so one thing I would just say, I mean, thanks for the presentation. I know this is a big intermingled mess right now, but I think the important thing to focus on, and I think you are, especially the last couple of slides, is what we approved and agreed to do and the voters approved is we're, dip our toe in the water and let's test some of these things out, right? So I think it is important to just keep the focus on how do we get a couple of buses to try this out. I guess, we were gonna buy one of these chargers anyway, so that's great. I mean, I don't know what the options are, you guys will figure it out, but maybe we don't need 4 right now, we try with 2 and 1 charger. Because again, what we approved is just testing the waters, and I'm fully supportive of electric vehicles. I drive one personally, so it's not about that. It's just this market has not settled yet, and a lot needs to be figured out, especially the capacity stuff. But I will say the flip side of that too, right? I know there's talk we got to bring in capacity and substations. That's not new either, right? We have a gas station on campus that had to be put in, right? That was a decision that cost money. So as technologies change, you have to make investments to change with that. So none of this this stuff hasn't, it's not that it hasn't happened before, it can't, but a lot of the dust needs to settle, I think. But as long as we keep our focus on what, I would suggest, as long as we keep our focus on what we already approved and agreed to do, which is test the waters, learn something, we will prevent ourselves from getting too much into this uncertain territory and potentially into some trouble. So anyway, thanks for the update.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you all.
Yes. So
Cecily's gonna talk about the grants.
okay.
Good evening. So tonight, I, along with Ms. Michelle Mylod and Matt Davis, will provide an update on our federal grants. I will open with a summary and overview of our allocation for our title grants. So we receive Title I funds in our district to improve student achievement and extend additional learning opportunities for specific schools. The New York State Education Department uses a formula to determine which schools have a higher percentage of free and reduced price lunch, students who are eligible for free and reduced price lunch, higher than the average of the rest of the school district. And this year, those schools are again Shattuckon, Oranjan, Octay, and Coda. The focus of the funds this year are to continue to support staffing for academic intervention services, to use the University of Albany interns in each building, after-school programming, summer programming, which we'll hear more about this evening, in those Title I buildings. Dr. Wood was happy to point out that there was a significant increase this year, which has not been typical over the years with Title I, that will allow us to provide additional supports. Title II is highly regulated and focused on teacher professional development and professional practice. And thus a portion of those funds are used to provide not only professional learning, but staff to support professional learning in the form of our coaches. We, again, this year were not eligible for Title III for the immigrant section, but we were eligible and did receive an increase in Title III for our Ls. And that will fund primarily our summer E&L programs. And Title IV is focused on student support and academic enrichment, and this supports all of our social emotional, or some of our social emotional learning, equity, diversity, and inclusion training, supporting resources for those programs, and supporting the whole child. And now I can turn it over to Ms. Myla, unless there are questions about Title IV report, or the title grant report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. We have the federal grants, the 611, the 619, that are for students with disabilities. The 611 grant, as you can see, is a pretty significant grant, approximately probably 10% of our overall budget. Within this grant—
Special ed budget.
Yes, special education budget, sorry. Yes. Primarily, the expenses in this grant go to staff. So teachers, psychologists, behavior specialists, and special education aides. We also have a certain amount of money that is required to be allocated to preschools and state-approved private schools that operate as day treatments. We also spend significant money on supplies and materials specific to our students with disabilities. Most of those supplies and materials going to our students in our self-contained programs, ranging from $4,000 or $5,000 chairs based on their physical needs to smaller things that help them with communication and overall classroom functioning. And then we also have money for some professional development. The 619 grant is for preschool students and early childhood. So we can also allocate that funding for students in kindergarten and first grade. And you can see that that is much less amount because we do not have funding requirements for preschool other than clerical and administrative costs. Any questions about the 611 and 619 grants?
No, thank you.
All right, and I'm gonna finish it off here with a discussion of our COVID-specific federal grants. So first, the ESSER II grant. I just want to point out that this grant ended in September of this year. So at this point, all funds have been expended. And the purpose of this grant was to respond and prepare for the COVID-19 pandemic. So specifically, its impact on social, emotional, mental health, and academic needs of students. And we made a number of investments in this grant. So just a few that I'm going to highlight for you this evening. Additional touchscreen displays and Chromebooks for students at multiple grade levels, and adding touchscreen displays in almost every classroom in the high school specifically. So a significant investment in technology with the ESSER II grant. We also expanded access to extended day kindergarten and opened up new classrooms for that in several of our buildings. Again, to respond to the fact that there were many students who were coming to us in kindergarten as a result of COVID without receiving early intervention services and therefore needed additional supports once they got to school. We also used ESSER II funds to pay for teacher substitutes. During COVID, there was a significant uptick in the number of folks who were out due to quarantine and isolation. In addition to that, we expanded English as a new language supports in earth science and global history, and also expended a significant portion of this grant on expanded funding for the Future Ready Furniture Grant, which enabled us to refresh approximately 30 spaces in the district last year, including libraries and classrooms at all grade levels. So beyond the ESSER II grant, we have the ARPA grant. The ARPA grant is still in existence, and it expires in September of 2024. So the purpose of this grant is very similar, but gets a little bit more specific. The purpose of the ARPA grant is really to address learning loss, so the impacts of the pandemic as opposed to preparing to respond to the pandemic during the time that it took place. We made similar investments with ARPA, and we continue to make those investments. We added an elementary behavior specialist to meet the increased behavioral needs of our students K-5. We also used these funds to support our teacher coaching initiative, adding an elementary data coach, and also used it to support the implementation of our STAR universal screener for reading and math. In addition, we used these funds to train administrators, counselors, psychologists, and behavior specialists in restorative practices, expanded our mental health contract through Saratoga Center for the Family, and added additional academic intervention services staffing K-12. Specifically at the high school, we created positions to tutor students who had specific deficits in math and reading. And lastly, as it relates to ARPA, we increased our use of translation services to meet the needs of our expanding population of students for whom English is not their first language. Moving beyond ARPA, so ARPA had several components that required specific reserves to be set aside. So the state required a certain percentage to be set aside just for summer and enrichment activities. So you're actually going to hear more about this in the next presentation, but just briefly, we were able to add additional sections of summer literacy and summer ENL, as well as offer some really interesting creative classes at summer school 612 that we weren't able to offer in the past. We also were able to add counseling services, additional counseling services to summer school to meet the mental health and social emotional needs of our students. And this grant also expires in September of 2024, so we'll be able to do these things again in the summer of 2024. So the next reserve is for learning loss, and again, very similar to what we discussed with ARPA. The state requires us to set aside a certain percentage of ARPA for this specifically, and we used these dollars and continue to use these dollars for additional academic intervention staffing K-8 and additional math, literacy, and academic lab tutorial supports 9 through 12. The final ARPA reserve fund is the after-school reserve. Again, this expires in September 2024. These funds have been used to support homework club tutoring services at High School East and High School West, and also have been used to support transportation to bring students home when they're staying for after-school activities. That's a significant cost for the district, and we've been able to use these grant funds to support that. So the last of the current federal grants related to COVID is GEAR. So this also expired in September of this year. All these funds have been expended at this point. And this grant wasn't necessarily directly related to classroom instruction, but really about maximizing operational efficiencies and prioritizing non-recurring expenses related to COVID, and then also expanding that out. So we used this grant to improve sound systems used in large group spaces, to install shades in certain classrooms, to expand our security systems and lockdown capacity across the district, and also to purchase additional food service equipment that really benefited students K-12. So the next two grants that you're going to see here are actually grants that we've applied for but have not yet received. So part of the application process for these grants that you may have heard the governor speak about recently is that we share an update with the board related to the proposed expenditures as part of these grants. So the RECOVS grant, RECOVS being Recovery from COVID, is a new state grant that was written into the state budget that was passed this fiscal year. And so this grant came out over the summer, and Dr. Robinson and myself and several other people collaborated to write this grant. And if the district does receive the grant, it will be in place from November 1st of this year to October 31st of 2025. And this grant has two component parts, mental health and learning loss. So on the mental health piece of it, and I should also add, the grant requires 100% matching funds. So for every dollar we receive from the state, we have to commit either existing ARPA funds or local general fund dollars to match those state funds. So for the mental health piece of this grant, we are proposing using a combination of local and ARPA funds as well as in-kind contributions from existing staffing in the amount of approximately $248,000, which we would then get in return $248,000 in grant funds. So this would be used to expand the access to and utilization of school-based mental health services. Very exciting for me in my role to think about this. So we're proposing the following investments. So increased staffing to support school-based mental health services and health education, as well as mental health support to suspended students, as well as professional development to better prepare teachers, support staff, and related service professionals to provide and react to mental health services for students. So again, this is the Recov's Mental Health Grant. We should find out relatively soon if we receive this grant. And then the last component here is the Recov's Learning Loss Grant. So this grant, again, includes a local match from ARPA and general funds of $529,000 in exchange for state funds in the amount of $529,000. And again, this same thing, if we were to receive this grant, it would go from November 1st of this year to October 31st of 2025. The purpose of this grant is to expand access to and utilization of school-based academic recovery services. So that's the state's words. We call it academic intervention services at Shen. And again, we propose to use these funds to increase staffing to support academic intervention services district-wide and provide professional development to support those services, as well as invest in software to support data analysis for those students who are engaged in academic intervention services. Any questions?
I have a question about timing. With the due date being really close and the requirement or the purpose is to expand access, when do you expect to hear and will we be ready to take advantage of it?
So, this was an interesting topic of conversation all summer. Because of the way this was written into the state budget, it crosses 3 fiscal years, it doesn't start until midway through the school year, right? So we actually thought a lot about this. So we believe that the specific investments that we're proposing will meet the definition of the grant and be able to start relatively quickly after we find out that if we've received the grant. So for instance, if we were told October 31st that we've received one of these grants, we would be ready that day to go to Dr. Robinson and request permission to say post for a position that was already approved as part of the grant, or something along those lines. There's also portions of this that are things that we're already doing that would be shifted over to this grant, which would free up local fund dollars to use for other purposes. So yes, I believe we would be ready, and it would depend quite a bit on if we're able to find quality folks to fill the positions we're proposing as part of the grant.
I see. Thank you, Jason.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh,
No, that's all right. I just
I
had a
didn't
question.
see you, you gotta wave your hand.
Camouflage.
Over the
Camouflage by the
cupcakes. Yeah. So if we do get the grant and are able to fill some of the positions with quality mental health folks, the question is after 2 years, when the grant is up, what happens then?
Sure.
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? So the benefit of this grant, kind of answer your question, actually going back. The first grants that Matt mentioned, that they'll all be done September 2024. This grant in many ways, so absent this grant potential, we'll be engaging this spring in an exit strategy from things that we're going to continue to budget for and things that we're not going to continue to budget for. This grant allows us more time to see which one of those services we continue or not continue, because all these grants are designed to a shot in the arm, not for permanency. That was the whole intent behind all these federal grants, and for schools to then plan what's going to be sustained over time. So if we get this, then it adds essentially another 12 to 18 months to see what do we fold into our budget, and so the matching portion that comes of it. So the question is, what do we keep as we move forward beyond 2025, or what do we, quite frankly, with you, don't continue on beyond 2025? And so even when we look at staffing, staffing is being hired on a term basis. under a grant provision because there's no guarantee beyond that period of time. So that's what it does. I want to say by time, it allows us more time to assess the effectiveness of certain things and then to make a determination, is it something that we want to continue to invest in the budget sequence.
And that makes perfect sense, but as it relates specifically to mental health providers, it's hard to imagine that that's not gonna be a service that is needed beyond the 2 years.
I mean, but
And I get it.
yeah, it's like anything else that every year we analyze everything anyway and have to make those determinations. But this just gives us that chance to add stuff faster, and that's just the danger of, quite frankly, of all the federal funds. A lot of places add a lot of things, and come 2024, they don't have the capacity. So when you think about it, probably about $9 million, and most of our investments have been things that we're not going to necessarily need to replace. So we're very strategic about those kind of things. And for those things that we have to make a determination of sustainability, then we have to figure out what's the budgetary implication of those things as we plan forward. So we try not to invest in things that we don't see a long-term merit for. It doesn't make sense.
It does.
Yeah.
Jason?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to touch on a couple of things that already came up, but kudos on to Dr. Robinson's point. Most of these grants doing kind of one-off interventions that don't have recurring costs, because that is, we don't get ourselves into trouble. And a lot of this is just investment that will last for a while, like buying furniture and equipment and things like that. So that's good. But on the staffing piece and the other things that do lead to potentially ongoing costs, I think it's good that we're seeing this as a time to quickly ramp up ideas, try them out, and see how they go. But I would just ask, and not implying that this isn't going to happen, but it would be good now at the outset to define how are we going to measure whether or not these things are successful or worthwhile. And then I'm thinking from a budget standpoint, and when it comes to figuring out the budget standpoint, that's a question I would have to say, should we find more money, not find more money? Because some stuff's going to be on the cutting room floor probably, right? Or there's going to be stuff on the bubble, and it's so defining what successful outcomes would be, and then knowing whether or not these things have been helpful in the way we expected or planned, makes it really easy to say, yeah, we should definitely fund that because it's really good, or say, you know what, it was a great idea, didn't quite hit the mark, not going to miss it, right? So again, not that you're not going to do that or already planned it, but that's just coming from the budget board perspective. I think that would be helpful.
Jason just said something, the reminder. Earlier you said that the ESSER funding that it's ended in September.
Yes.
And you also mentioned that that was what was used for the Future Ready grants, but being on the DIDA committee, I know we're planning for more Future Ready grants, so how is that going to be funded?
So we are incorporating additional funding for Future Ready grants into ARPA, which expires in September of 2024.
Okay.
And we also have funding allocated in the budget yearly as part of general fund for Future Ready grants. So we will, again, have expansive opportunities for teachers to apply this year, and continued opportunities in future years built into the budget.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
I
think you're done, right?
So Mr. Davis officially took over summer programs this summer, and so he's going to come back up here, but with a team of folks who will talk to you about the incredible summer opportunities that were available in Shen.
Okay, I'm back. So I'm really excited this evening to share with you the really great work that happened here this summer. And this was very much a team effort. So in my role, I oversee the summer literacy, summer ENL, and academic summer school programs. Becky Carmen oversees the Shen Summer Adventures and camp programs that exist in the district, and then Vicki Wild oversees the staff summer work that takes place through professional development. Michelle Mylod oversees all the special education summer programs, and so you're going to be hearing from a lot of people tonight who have some excellent news to share. I just want to start briefly by sharing some highlights from summer 2023 that relates to the work that I oversee. And I, again, just find these aspects of our work really exciting, and then I'm going to turn it over to folks who ran specific programs to share updates about those specific programs. So just a few highlights from this summer. For the first time, we were able to provide breakfast for our students in summer literacy and elementary E&L programs, and that was a lift, but one that we were really happy to do to make sure that every single student who was coming in to the building for those programs had their needs met, right? So we can't reach students academically unless their basic needs are met in terms of nutrition. So we were very happy to collaborate with the Child Nutrition Department to get that done for students at Shattuck this summer. And it worked out very well, and I'm sure that Scott D'Ambro, who's here to represent the summer literacy program, can share more about it. We also added several programs this summer that exist really because of federal grant dollars. So we have an elementary math enrichment program, which we filled every seat almost instantly for, and are looking forward to offering that again in summer of 2024. We also offered a summer bridge program for our accelerated math students who, because of COVID, needed some additional supports to prepare them for that math acceleration. We offered both in-person and virtual and hybrid options for those students who couldn't make the in-person as well. We also offered several art enrichment courses in grades 6 through 12. Again, every seat filled in those courses, and I know that Jen Lee Alden will be happy to speak more about those. For the first time this summer, we also offered initial credit for economics and Hudson Valley pre-calculus honors in summer school. So students who chose to accelerate themselves, who were not previously accelerated, came in over the summer and did pre-calculus every day for close to 4 hours, and that takes commitment. So that was fantastic, and those students earned college credit for doing that as well. Again, economics typically taken in the senior year of high school. Had some students who, for them specifically, it was a good thing to get that done over the summer. And we also were able to offer air conditioning for all of our students in summer programs this year. And again, I mentioned earlier, but much of this was supported by federal grant dollars that we allocated specifically for these purposes to meet student needs. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Scott D'Ambro, who is going to share more about the summer literacy program, and then I'll come back to talk about the summer E&L program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that's hard act to follow. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate that. So we've gone from bus batteries to big bucks. Now we get to the best thing, the kids. And I have to tell you, every year, it's been over 20 years I've been doing this. I love coming in this night to talk to you about the kids. You just can't beat it. Now, the money thing stresses me out, and the buses make me nervous. But the kids, you know what? They are gems, which is why we love at Summer Literacy our kids in the summer. Those are the children that are the most fragile, they need the most support, and they know it. So we're ready for them to come. Our mindset is ready, and we just love to see them each and every day. And when they leave us, they're smiling as well. I think we're smiling a little more though sometimes. Then we head into the buses. So, summer literacy. It's a purposeful gathering of approximately 300 students in need of exposure and practice of reading, writing, and math, and oh yes, that's social and emotional development. The makeup of our program is from all 8 elementary schools. We go from 4-year-olds right up to about 11 and 12 to 5th graders. So that's a handful, all in the hallway at one time. But you know what? The best thing is they learn from each other. Just when you think we have all the answers, we go to all the classes, just put these kids together in one room and they can figure it out. And that's one of our goals as well. Just not the reading, writing, and math, but let's be good people. And let's learn and practice how to do that as well. Our motto is, practice makes progress, not perfect. We try to avoid the summer slide where we not only build confidence, but we build good people along the way. Within our program, we provide smaller groups, sometimes more individual specific settings for children who need that. And also, the most important part, make these kids feel valued and important. You can do anything once you feel important and valued. I do have to credit my staff. I have a phenomenal staff of 34 teachers, absolutely outstanding. They come in on game, on point. And they're all from different schools as well, so they don't see each other during the year, because Shen, we're this big, summer literacy, we're this big. And it's amazing how you can take teachers from Scano to Octave to Chango and have them work together professionally and personally, and role model and show that to the kids that you don't have to be in the same little group to get along. We all learn together. My staff not only provides quality education and beautiful role modeling, but they also provide weekly newsletters to parents, very specific objectives and details to families, so they can also join in on the fun of helping their children. Because again, there's that triangle: child, teachers, families. So every week we've provided a weekly newsletter. My computer aide, Jan Nickel, amazing. She's my right hand as far as computer person. She sets that up for me, and it's a go. At the end of our program, we also provide all our specific data to all the 8 elementary principals, which provide that to their AIS supporters in each building, to give them an idea of where we were, what we did, and where they can jump from. So they don't have to backpedal and start all over again. They have something to actually work from. At this time, I do want to thank so much Matt Davis, especially Matt. It's been over 20-something years we've been working so hard to get that breakfast program. Because we all know, like Matt said, no Pop-Tart, no fun. Okay, so those little Pop-Tarts, and those ladies who help with the food, amazing. They kept saying, what else can we do? What else do you want a little mix-up? Do you want a variety? And oh, no. Just stick to the Pop-Tarts. So they were very, very grateful. They were so amazing people that just gave up their time and their talents, and the smiles that they gave. They went up and down the hallways, just amazing. And it helped those kids actually eat and learn and actually give a little smile, because some children actually have nothing when they come in, and they leave and have nothing. So again, thank you so much, Matt, for jumping in on that and really pushing and really working hard to get that for us. I also want to thank Dr. Robinson for over 20-something years. You've trusted me with this, and I've loved each and every moment. The geese weren't so much fun at Shattuck. They're all over the place. But the staff has been great. The secretaries and the custodians, phenomenal. The geese, we need a little work on. We got to work on that. But other than that, thank you, Dr. Robinson, so much for trusting me to do that. Also, Shattuck, Erica Ryan was the principal there, who also helped with the evacuation drills and all the drills and specific things we had to do with the custodians there to help it, to make it work as well. And they shared everything. That's the great thing also about Shem. We care so much about kids, not just Octave, Shattuck, or Ranjan, but put us together. We care about the kids as a whole. So when we went to Shattuck, everything was free. You need a book? We got it. You need a pencil? You have it. So I'm very proud to work at Shenendehowa, where it's a lot of sharing, a lot of collaboration, and most of all, compassionate and care for these kids. Finally, I wanted to thank the summer families and also the children for always bringing their best game. Even though it's hard, I always say to them, we can do hard things. Thank you very much.
Okay, just want to confirm. So our summer ENL program has 2 components. We have the elementary ENL program, which is co-located with Scott's summer literacy program. We have 77 English language learners in that program. And the goal of the program is to support the acquisition of academic English, so specifically reading and writing. And for the first time this year, we offered a kindergarten component to that program. So historically, kindergartners who were L's went to Scott's program, and this year we had specific ENL teachers who pushed into those classes to support English language acquisition for those students who typically have the lowest level of English language skills. If they're new to the United States, and these are students who are 4 and 5 years old. So that was a great component this summer. And then at the secondary level, this program is housed at High School West, co-located with the 612 summer school program. We had 33 students, again, similar goals, but content-based language instruction focused on vocabulary and writing. So for a total of 110 students. And for the first time this summer, Jess McClasko, who's one of our ENL teachers at Chango, coordinated that program, did an absolutely fantastic job, and had a great team behind her.
For the 33 students that were in High School West, are they new to the United States too, or new to this, to
No,
speaking
so
English?
this is open to any student who qualifies as an English language learner. So anyone from students, with the most language needs to students who are getting close to that commanding level, but again, still need that support. And this is an open enrollment program. So students, if you show up in Shenendehowa on, the day before the program starts, it's federally funded, you can come. And it usually has a pretty steady enrollment, about 100 students every summer. Great. So next up is the summer school principal, Mrs. Jen Lee Alden.
Thank you.
Good evening. So it's nice to see you again, and if I didn't thank you in August, I do want to thank those of you that attended our graduation. We did have 10 students graduate, which I think was really remarkable in our program. One of those students was actually a student that was slated to graduate a couple of years ago, and because of things that stepped in her way, she wasn't able to do it then. So that kind of gave me goosebumps. She didn't attend the graduation, but to have her, because Mrs. Tabano, one of our counselors, had made that relationship with her, and back a few years ago, she actually reached out to us, and she only needed one course, which we were able to offer her through Apex. And it was just kind of neat to know that we had a student cross the finish line that really was slated to graduate in 2021. So that's a pretty big thing. Taking a quick look in terms of, before we get started, I do want to thank Matt also. And when we were prepping a little bit today, Matt said short and sweet, and I said, like me, Matt, and his little text went back and said, yeah, we're gonna go with that, Jen. So for the second year, we did a little orientation for the students on the very first day, because we talked about how we wanted to preset the students rather than have to reset them. So we talked a lot about the kind of things we look for, that we're going to be kind and respectful, and what that looks like, how we're going to be accountable for our learning. Matt mentioned a few minutes ago about how we had air conditioning, and I really want to thank you, Dr. Robinson, for that. It wasn't such a great impact for me because my office is on that corridor that automatically is going to get it. But the anecdotal evidence of that being a plus for our kids is our monitors would tell you they spent less time in the bathroom saying it's time to get back to class now, meaning they were in those classes because the units we bought, they also worked. They kept those rooms cool. So I really want to impress upon the importance of that. It really did make a difference. We talked about kids, how they need to be responsible with their social media. I told them I did not want their cell phones, but I told them if they couldn't use it in a way that was positive and kind to others, then we would keep it for them for a couple of weeks until they learned that. And they really were a great group of kids. If you could go to the next slide, please, Dr. Robinson. You can take a look at the data there. We're actually a little bit smaller than what we were in past years, and I think part of that was due to the superintendent's appeal process. It was something put in place that sunsetted on August 23, that if students passed the course with at least a 65 in the 9 through 12, if they got a minimum of a 50 on their Regents exam, we could apply and talk to Dr. Robinson about giving them their Regents credit. So again, we got a lot of kids across the finish line. We've, for several years, been offering hybrid health, which is an initial credit course. It gives students a chance to take a course they need for graduation over the summer. There are some standards that are a little bit tougher, meaning attendance is really important because they need that instruction. And I was really delighted to work with Matt to be able to offer some more initial credit courses that he mentioned. For several years, I've been trying to market our program as a program for student opportunities. But that I was combating the thing that the students were in summer school because they felt they were failures. So when we started to change the optics a little bit, when we're offering students that go-ahead opportunity for the initial credit economics, the pre-calculus, and even those non-credit art courses, they didn't give them anything toward graduation, but the kids were coming in and they were enjoying it. It was changing who we had coming into our programs, and I think it was a lot of success. Our Checkpoint A classes, those give you credit toward graduation for your language. I'm happy to say, as one of the 9th grade administrators now, due to some of this programming plus the work of the middle school teachers and counselors, right now we only have 6 students that need their Checkpoint A for Spanish in 9th grade. We're offering that at the end of October, that opportunity, and 2 students that might need to get it for French. all of our Latin and our German kids have that took those courses, have those credits toward graduation already. So our teachers that come in and help us out with that, it really helps. You can see that data there, that we've got some Regents review classes we offered, and 110 more Regents credits were earned. I think there's just a little bit more, Dr. Robinson, and again, I'm reaching right up here, so I gotta watch this short and sweet. We still did do the backpack program for students that we found out. That's some information we get from counselors from the regular school year. And we did offer breakfast and lunch again. Our counts were a little bit down from the past, but I still am really happy that we can offer that, because there are kids that the breakfast and lunch we offer them is what they get in some families, so we're happy. Are there any questions I can answer? I'm right here, guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Tamara Thorpe-Odom, who was one of the administrators for the Special Education K-12 ESY program. She's going to share about that program.
Good evening. So I'm going to follow up another short and sweet because I'm here too, 411 with my heels. So what a wonderful experience for me as my first year helping to support this program. We had over 217 students that attended with us during the summer. We had our academic skills development program that was 2.5 hours a day, and then we also had the rest of our programs that were 5.5 hours a day. I cannot begin to thank all of the hard work and collaboration. As I was walking in today, I met Scott, and I didn't even know it was him, but we did a lot of collaboration without even knowing it. And just wanted to just personally thank the Rodgson staff, Mr. Hills, his staff there, as well as the custodial staff, Becky, all the people that collaborated. The transportation department was amazing, as well as the cafeteria program. Our students also helped the mall students also helped to collate the Bountiful backpack program, so it was a really nice opportunity for them to come over and be able to do that, be able to get all of the food together and be able to deliver it to students in our building. Can I see the next slide? So our theme this year was by the sea, and what I wanted to say is that we had a really highly structured, engaging, and fun-filled program that addressed our students' needs. And one of the things is by having this theme and curriculum-based program, it was a way for us to bring consistency and everyone to have that support within the building. So we spent some time going on field trips, having musical plays, having the aquarium come in and see us and show reptiles with us, and then also going to the pool. And then we also did a scavenger hunt. So when we came in, there's a scavenger hunt. So we're practicing to get ready as we scavenger hunt throughout the Orange building. And then we got to see the actual real reptiles and fishes there in the aquarium. So I think it was a nice correlation and connection for our students. What I loved about this program this year, that parents had the ability to visit their students, and they were able to come to see the students within our program. They came in for beach day and were able to come to our art show and also to our science show. As they came in, we had ocean music filling throughout the halls, and the students were able to present their projects to the students and to the families. And so what an amazing opportunity for our students to be able to present science projects, art projects, talk about what they're learning. And they were able to travel between, we had new students that came over to Orange, but able to open up the building to be able to allow our students and their families in, and then also do some peer modeling with the students to let them see and be able to present their projects. So at the end of our celebration, we had a beach party, and we were able to celebrate our students' academic and social emotional success. And like I said, we had the art showcase, the science fair, and then the ability to take our students off-site and be able to visit the aquarium. So it was an amazing opportunity for students to be able to have this opportunity to be with other students, to engage with other students, but also be academically challenging, be able to prevent aggression, and then also work on those social emotional skills. Any questions?
That's a lot. That's exciting.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to introduce Mr. John Conover, Community Education Coordinator for the Shen Summer Adventure Programs.
It's always nice to come and present when you have good news to tell. It sounds like we got a good theme going here, so I'm going to keep going with it to talk a little bit about Shen Summer Adventure. We had another epic year this year. We had over 1,200 students come back to all the buildings in the school for 6 different camps. Smiles on faces every single day. In fact, many of the camps, if you look at the numbers on the board there, many of the camps hit their maximum. and sometimes exceeded their maximum where they were calling us up and asking, can we add a few more spots? Can we add? And the answer was, our staff said, absolutely, of course. And we brought all these kids back. We had over 75 employees, whether they were teachers, whether they were monitors, aides, maybe even some college students coming back to help work the programs, giving opportunities to kids and giving them great role models to look up to put up to, make these programs what they were. And in fact, it's amazing that how fast that and popular the programs have become, filling up in just 48 hours, where I would go home on a Friday and by Sunday night, I'm getting emails, is there any more spaces? So you can see the popularity has just grown. I even noticed that when I was getting phone calls, prior to registration beginning, people wanting to know when the date of registration was and if they had to wait till midnight to I said, no, 9 a.m. will be fine to register. So they were waiting by their computers to register. So I think we're definitely onto something here. We had a lot of great opportunities for some kids in 2023 with some scholarships by the scholarship organization. We're very grateful to them to provide these great opportunities to the kids to engage in these activities and come to camps. Also with Matt with the McKinney-Vento scholarships that were given as well to the kids. We had a whole lot of people just able to come back and have this great opportunity to engage in these things where maybe they weren't able to before. So we tripled our scholarship numbers, which is absolutely phenomenal. From a standpoint of programming and everything, we had lots of new stuff. We had a new take on musical theater camp, 3 new great shows. Still, I don't know how they do 3 musicals in just 2 weeks' time on each of those, with Shrek Jr., Aladdin Kids, and Newsies Jr., and they came out great. Some camps, like Seek Camp, had some new workshops. They were put in extensions of the classroom, things that sometimes the kids in the classroom want to do more of, but there's just not time. So we had things like escape rooms and master Lego challenge builders, even our Zen crafts and meditation workshop. We actually had some yoga instructors come in and teach some meditation and yoga, and really putting our pulse on what the kids want, surveying them each year, making sure that we're doing a good job. And I think we are, because I have other programs around Clifton Park calling me up and saying, how do you do this? What is the secret? And I said, I don't know. I think it's the kids. I think understanding them, understanding what they want to do, understanding how we can support classroom teachers during the year by giving them these great opportunities and extensions of everything in the summer. So we must be doing the right thing. We got wonderful feedback from parents. I mean, I'm just looking around, I see many people, all of you guys have had your kids in our programs in the past, and so the real deal, how they've come to enjoy it. And it's kind of, I look back at them and say, to give those kids an opportunity just to come and enjoy themselves in the summer and come to a place where they know they're going to flourish and have fun and grow emotionally, grow socially, and just have fun doing the things that they love to do at school. I mean, that's the most rewarding thing we can think of, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it. And one last thing to say, I just want to thank you all for over the years. I'm going to be actually stepping down as summer coordinator. I'm still going to run the Seek Camp. That's still something that I'm going to do. So I wanted to thank everybody over the years this was year 17 of doing this, 17 years of being coordinator. And I just hope that, in doing this, that I hope to make the program better. And I hope I kind of helped it along to make it what it is today. So thank you all for trusting me with all these kids all these years.
Thank you, John. John had no idea that I was going to even say anything, but before you both said, I just wanted to take a minute just to recognize John for all of his hard work and everything he's put into this program for the last 17 years. It is time to be with his family, and I totally understand he's still going to be working as the camp coordinator for Seek, but not the camp coordinator or the director for all of the programs. So it's going to be a tremendous loss for us. You've done an amazing job, and we really want to take the opportunity to recognize you for everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also want to put a plug in for what John was talking about with the educational scholarships. That was put through the Shenendehowa Education Foundation to help those students. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
And lastly, this evening, I want to welcome up Vicki Wild, Director of Professional Learning, to discuss all the work that teachers and coaches engaged in this summer.
Thank you very much, Matt. So in addition to all of the staff that came out, putting on great programming for the kids during the summer, we also had quite a few people who were working on preparing for the coming school year, whether it be through working on their curriculum or through their own learning. So first I want to focus on curriculum development. We had teachers come in for hundreds and hundreds of hours of curriculum development over the summer, and part of what they were doing was working on a new curriculum template. We have come up with a consistent template of how different departments are putting their curriculum together so that there's consistency in the way that it looks. We had folks working on units of study. We had a lot of our folks in elementary school working on literacy and assessment pieces from K-12. So there are some examples there, obviously curriculum planning in every content area, a lot on literacy, digital citizenship, math enrichment at the elementary level, a lot on wit and wisdom. You've heard about wit and wisdom quite a bit already. Our teachers in English as a new language are working on an audio project in order to help our students who are English language learners access the wit and wisdom literacy program. Dr. Robinson, if you would go to the next slide. We also had our educators coming in for their own learning. So the professional learning team, myself and the coaches, provided different sessions over the course of the summer. You'll note that Gina Bolson's name is still there. Gina didn't switch out of her role as a coach into her role as an academic administrator until towards the end of the summer. So she was one of the coaches who was providing sessions over the course of the summer. Emily Patterson, our new coach in literacy specific to wit and wisdom, began right at the beginning of the summer. So it was nice to have that depth of the team to be able to provide sessions for our staff. But additionally, we had faculty instructors, and I've listed the names there of all of the different educators who offered their time to provide sessions for their colleagues. And there's a list there of just sampling of some of the different sessions that were offered. You've heard about restorative practices quite a bit, and actually those two photos are from our restorative practices circles in our training that we had during July. And then finally, I just wanted to highlight PD Palooza. This next slide here was the opener in the sill when you walked in during the summer for PD Palooza. And what this was came directly out of our professional learning committee as we talked in the spring about how do we make professional learning during the summer more inviting? How do we get more people to come? Some of the discussion was around, I don't want to come for just a half day on one topic, or I want to wait until the end of the summer until I'm refreshed a little bit, and then I'm willing to come in and give me a day and let me do it like a conference and let me engage in a bunch of different things. So that's what we planned. And then the last Monday of summer vacation, we held the PD Palooza. So as you can see, participants could go to 4 different sessions. They could order Panera for lunch. Panera brought their lunches right to them, and we had raffles at the end of the day. So we have a couple of photos just at the end here, the very last slide, to show you some of the swag. Our vendors donated pens, notepads, all different things. You can see a bunch of the teachers there in the high school west in the lecture hall. One of the classes that John Bullington was teaching, and as it's very funny that you have your buntlets in front of you, this was one of our prize winners who won a buntlet a month for a full year as a raffle prize at the end of the day. And it was super exciting that this idea that was thrown out in a meeting, we were able to develop into something brand new that we're really hoping to replicate in the future. Any questions? Fantastic, thank you very much.
I just have to say, these presentations are amazing. This is just covering what happened over the summer, and it's pretty shocking because most of us were focused on the construction, yet SEEK was still happening, even though walls were missing in that building. They were still making it happen. They can imagine it happen. Clearly, there's a demand, and it's very exciting to hear these successes that happened as of this summer, and many new programs. I mean, this is just a great presentation. It's also it's really good to get presentations like this But thank you to everyone who was part of making that magic happen.
Good, so since I stand between you and 11 o'clock, I'll take my time. This presentation you see, this was what we shared at our facilities committee, and we thought it was a good idea to provide some of this information to the board. Recognize there'll be presentations throughout the construction phase, as well as on November 7th, Callie and her team will be back here talking about our 5-year facility studies and building condition surveys and how did that translate to potential referendum planning and things in the future. So we'll be having a lot of construction-related conversation in the coming weeks. Again, just some quick highlight. I'm not going to necessarily go through all the details here. We're going to talk about the phase 2-3 of the $26.5 million referendum project. We're finishing out. Gowanna is a big piece of it this summer. Next summer, we'll be getting into some other components. But as Mrs. Hoffman mentioned, some points in the summer, it was a shocking scene. And wonder, we'll be ready for open house, start of school, and it's like magic, it works every time. Between contractors, kudos to Augie Freeman and Barb for hounding everyone to make sure everything is done. I happened to walk in one day with shorts and a t-shirt on, and I guess I must not look the same. Because they're like, who are you? Until some guy's like, oh, you're that guy. So I'm not sure who that guy is, but I became that guy when he realized that I was that guy. I was on my way to PT, and I happened to stop in. I was 7:30 bar or something like that. It's early in the morning. Which I share that because we try to monitor these things as close as we can to make sure that when we commit to timelines, we commit to timelines. Several rooms are on board as planned. Several rooms are not as planned in terms of some of the classrooms. The Gowanna office is on its way. We're very optimistic that it'll be in place. Robin is very good about monitoring that on a daily basis, so we're kind of excited to see that's going. The high school music suite is still under construction. It wasn't intended to be done now, so that's underway as well. As we sit, in fact, there might be people who are working tonight in both venues as we move forward. The big work that everyone's talking about is the air conditioning of the elementary schools. The infrastructure is in place. The chillers themselves were not planned to be in place until next spring because we need a certain number of hot days in order for those things to be recalibrated. So they'll be ordered and delivered in time for hopefully those the two hot summer days we have here in the Northeast, some point at the time that. So that'll be on board sometime spring in 2024. Certainly the focus on North and South. When I say North and South, Scandal, Tasago, and Carrigan, Aranda, and then Chango, Octave. So the elementary schools will be all nice, cool places for the summertime. And instead of housing all those programs right now in Shattuckon and Ranjan in the summer, we have more options to house summer programs. So that's a good thing moving forward. This is just an example of summertime. You walked into Gowanna. This is from the entrance working into the lobby. There's no walls, and now you have walls and you have things that's happening. So a lot of things, we have floors being poured. So every day, these pictures are a little bit dated, but every day, tremendous improvement is taking place. Again, from looking at the entrance, this will be the entrance to the Gowanna office. If you think about it, the Gowanna side entrance now, this is where the Gowanna office, all glass. Walking down the hallway towards the library. This is the back side towards the technology room, to give you some point of reference. This is I love this picture. This is our new open office concept. So no walls on offices, and we'll be issuing warm coats in the wintertime. But we had to tear down all these brick walls because we had to redo bricks, to do windows, to do everything else. It's a trickle-down effect in construction. So again, this was the last thing they did because we had to secure the interior of the building before we could take down the exterior of the building, so to speak. And this is what it looks like after, in terms of starting to secure the interior of the building. The hallways turn out very well. If you go into Gowanna now, bright, and we know this happens every time. You know, you get one nice hallway, not everybody wants every hallway to be the same way. And so we get that, oh my God, can we do this over here? And so we know that's going to be the kind of novelty effect that happens after every construction project. And so Great job with really bringing that space up to snuff as we move forward. These are some other areas within the old office that we're trying to transition from the back of the library. You know, you go out to the back library to office, so I'm expanding that capacity, using that capacity a little bit differently, since that office is no longer in that space and it's not required for classroom spaces. This is what we kind of jokingly say, this is the Guana patio. That it's right off one of the science rooms, or art room. Right on one of the art rooms, an area that go do some outdoor art-related type things as we move forward. And at the same time, we're doing some things with some ramps and things of that nature in the area as well. And this is the gutted Guana art room that we're still in the process of working on now. That was not intended to be online as we move forward. Similar science room again. I'm just kind of showing these pictures because a lot of these things have changed. This is the work that was done so that the chillers can be placed on the roof. And so a lot of times people think about, you know, it's not going to Home Depot and buying an air conditioning unit, sticking in the window. There's a lot of internal piping work that had to be done in all these areas to ensure that the calibration of heat and cooling can take place as we move forward. So it's a lot of money that went into the sequence of piping that you see here. Again, this is another picture of the boiler room, so piping everywhere. So again, the things that people don't see, don't appreciate until, you know, either you have the piping, the air, or don't have the air. The middle school music room, looking forward. I personally haven't been in a couple weeks now. Last time I was there was just a big empty gutted out space. Looking forward to that coming online. The music suite's going to be really nice in terms of capacity and multi-purpose use of that space. And so again, that's on, and I say on schedule because construction is always one back order away from delay, right? In terms of things coming in. So I carefully use that term when I say on schedule, but we're certainly shooting for the same target dates that we had before. Phase 3 next summer, and we're gearing up for this already, having conversation around these things. The athletic fields, believe it or not, it'll be 15 years since we put the turf field in and the new track, and so it's that the useful life piece of it, and we've been patching and track and turf for the last couple of years. So both of those will be replaced. Tennis courts, we get a lot of people talking about tennis courts having cracks, and that's the nature of the beast right now. So instead of spending a lot of money a year from now, they have some dug up. We'll be patching a lot of those things as we go through the season here as well. And then we'll be doing some internal work at the high school as a part of the overall aidability of all these projects as we move forward.
What's the gang toilet room?
That's a reference that we said bathrooms with multiple stalls or toilets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a. I keep saying that, Callie, put for your reference. We take the gang out of our vernacular, period, because that sends a whole different connotation, especially after today. So we take that out of. So we'll be doing parking lots and tennis courts. So next summer is a lot of paving. We hope the price points are not going to be like they were this year. Mm-hmm. Paving was very expensive this past summer. So we're hoping that the price points will be much more reasonable because we're going to be doing a lot of it next summer in the turf field. We have some prices locked in on certain things. We hope that those vendors will hold true to those prices that they're locked in at. We'll see as things forward. Then the next piece, again, just going to be more of a broad overview here. The 5 Maxwell Road project, and thanks Callie for her patience. Initially, we had this presentation as the first presentation, so that Callie could come, we could do this first presentation, she could go. And I totally didn't realize that we actually had it at the end, so Callie was so patient to sit here to probably talk for probably 5 minutes. So she's been here an hour and a half, but it's fine, she's a trooper. So Callie just kind of talk about some of the things that we've been doing related to just in the planning and the preparation. And Erica's not here, not before Callie jumps up. I want to say kudos to Erica Ryan. When Dr. Wood transitioned to a new position, she was leading a lot of conversation with a wide variety from the program level ad hoc. I think Tom and JC on the program. So in fact, we're meeting Erica's, Dr. Wilson Turner and I, meeting on Friday to talk about scheduling enough time for the program level ad hoc and what's the focus on those and how does that then coincide with this work and trying to do a joint. You should have received both of you invite to a November 1st joint facilities ad hoc meeting. We're gonna try to have everybody come up on the same pace, and Callie can talk about, we're gonna talk about some themes and try to get some ideas generating as fast as we can. Then the program committee could do some program things and different people doing different things. So we're not waiting for one group to the next group versus having a lot of work taking place simultaneously. So Carolyn, if you want to talk about like the schematic phase and some of those kind of things we are right now with the architectural firm, and where do you see like some next steps at SED?
Sure, sounds good. I'll try to keep with the short and sweet theme. Right now, we're in the design development phase of the project. We've wrapped up schematic design, and that's where we've got all the layout of the spaces. So everything's kind of in the right spot. People have reviewed it, and we're good to go there. So now what we're doing is taking that and kind of making it real. Making it buildable, doing some more code review, ADA review, things of that nature. And we're also trying to do some things within the building to kind of bring the scale down a little bit. It's a very big, long, overwhelming building for a little one, so we're trying to come up with some ways that we can do some things in the corridor, make it a little more interesting and a little more scaled down. So that's a lot of fun, and that's something that's in progress. But we've been working with the stakeholder groups, as Dr. Robinson mentioned, and those are things like food service, so we had to meet with the food service department, the site and transportation, meeting with the transportation department. We had a group for classrooms, typical kindergarten classrooms, special education rooms, all of those, physical education, and then also the district has been taking a look at the district office side of things. We need to, even though we don't plan any architectural work for that other side of the building really, with the exception of the second floor, we still may have some mechanical and electrical work, and we have to have these areas documented from when we submit to SED, just so they can do like a code review, make sure everything seems all right. So district's working on that. We're wrapping up the stakeholder meetings and getting into really the nitty-gritty of the project. So we don't have any drawings to show tonight, but just to kind of give you an idea of how the project has morphed a little bit since you've seen it, it really hasn't changed a whole lot. The schematic design was in pretty good shape by the time we did the referendum, through a lot of work and planning with the district. Some things that did change. One is we worked really hard to keep the main office, the nurse, and the counseling suite together, because that's how Gwana wanted it. We thought that was really important. So we said, oh, we gotta make sure we have space to have all these things together. Well, then this was wonderful, meeting with Erica and showing her this. She said, you know what, I really think it'd be better to have those things separate. So right now we will have the main office is on the first floor, obviously, where the entry is. The nurse is on the second floor, and the nurse is next to the cafeteria now, which, come to find out from meeting with the nurse stakeholder group, they have a lot of issues in the cafeteria where the nurse is called in, or a student needs to quickly get from the cafeteria to the nurse's office. So that worked out really well, and then it gives some additional support on that second floor. Teachers having an issue, you have more people up there that can jump in and help out. And then on the third floor, we have the counseling suite. And again, that helps to have some extra helpers on the third floor in the case of any support that teachers may need. So that was really eye-opening for us to hear that. That was really a better strategy for this building and for the little ones. So that's probably the main difference from what you saw previously. We still have the classrooms around the exterior, the center spaces, distributed art and music on the second and third floors, cafeteria on the second floor, gym on the first floor. Really, really very similar to what you saw previously. And then on the site, that also is still pretty similar to what you saw previously, but working with transportation and taking a little closer look at it. What we're trying to do is get some more space in there for some buses, get some more parking in there, because it is really short on parking. But we have also this delicate balance of getting those things that you need but not taking away too much green space. And we've also looked at, in the earlier scheme, we had the playground and field areas kind of out in the front of the building a little bit. Now what we're looking at is maybe putting some additional parking there and moving them to the back of the building. We didn't do that initially because there's some steep grading there and it'll require some additional site work, but it really is a safer and better design, and this was something, you know, that the school came up with. It is a better design and a safer design to keep all of those things in the back of the building. So we'll be doing a little bit of additional site work for that, but I think it's really the right way to go. And as I mentioned, the schematics for the administrative space, the district has been walking through, I think, many, many times and writing notes on floor plans and things, trying to get their space all assigned so that we can finalize that submission to SED for the preliminary submission. We're not quite there for the final submission.
Yeah. So just some date point of reference, as I mentioned Friday, I'm sure it's Friday, I'll make sure. We were meeting with Erica, which would then trigger some of the program level ad hoc conversation and objectives, and making sure that we don't have overlapping redundancies in some of those type things. On the 24th, Callie, we're meeting, correct, at 3 o'clock on the 24th. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
On the 24th, at that point, we'll not only going to talk about 5-year building condition survey, but we'll have some of that feedback that Callie mentioned, the need from the other side of that piece of it, so we get those plans and things rolling in as well. So it's easier for, I mean, I could write my chicken scratch on maps and send it to Callie, and she has to ask me 1,000 questions, versus if I talk and she write it in ways that she could comprehend and grab for whatever reporting that she needs. So we're going to do some of that on the 24th. And then, again, the November 1st meeting, it's a joint meeting, and certainly we have board representatives, we have some overlap. There's slight little concern, because we have 4 board members not technically be in the same space, because Tom, Naomi, Jason, Petra, you're on 2 different committees. So somebody's going to, it's right after Halloween, so somebody's wearing a mask that we didn't recognize who was a board member. We always had to think of quorum. If you have 4 board members in the same space, it could technically be deemed a quorum of the board. So we'll work through those logistics. We'll talk about that. We'll work through those logistics. It's a minor thing, but I just wanted to make the point. And then the November 7th meeting, we come back here again to talk about 5-year facilities, and that's where the schematic that Callie just referenced. The reason why we don't have a schematic, because some of the things we actually haven't put on the paper yet, we've been talking about and, you know, just penciling it in to be able to try to show some of those schematics so you can see some of the things, what she's talking about, like the relocation of the playground, for example, or proposed relocation of the playground as an example, so you can see some of those things as we move forward. So it's time consuming, but it's very intricate time consuming, because you literally, when you think about building a school, there's no textbook, do it every way, one way. Everything is unique and everything is new, and so we have to make sure that the sequencing of information occurs the right way. So excited about it. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to fool you. It's a lot of work that goes into it. A lot of people involved in this process, and we're excited about the progress that we're going to continue to make. So stay tuned. And as we're talking about that, as I said, on the 7th, we'll be talking about what's our next need for the school system in the next 10, 15 years. So exciting times ahead for us. Questions, thoughts, concerns, criticisms?
Good job.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for the indulgence.
Absolutely.
A lot of presentation time. Callie, thank you for your patience. My apologies. I shouldn't
those were
strict you
great
out.
presentations. It was fun to watch.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it.
me.
Alright, so it's now, we're gonna move on to Petra for the NISBA resolutions.
We're not gonna read all these, are we? I know you're not.
I've heard that's been done in the past. No, be silly. It's late, this was wonderful, but it's late, so, and also I stayed up late. So, as I discussed last time, NISBA goes through a process where there are a variety of resolutions that are proposed. This year there were 56 of them. So the meeting started yesterday at 4 p.m. and did not end until midnight. No breaks, 8 hours, 56 resolutions. By the end, the gentleman was begging us to retain quorum. which was 200 people. We started out with 360, and it dropped and dropped and dropped. I mean, people have lives, right? It was unexpected. I stayed on bitter. I didn't want to be the one to ruin quorum. So there were a couple of themes I would like to mention. The resolutions are split between those that are supported by NISBA and those that are not. The first 32 were supported by NISBA. 29 of those passed. So there's a very clear, I mean, either they have their finger on the pulse, right, or their support lends a lot of credibility, probably a mix of both. There were 23 remaining resolutions. Only 6 of those passed, and 2 of them were about buses, and why no one likes the electric bus mandate. So that's not much of a surprise. So we have this real dichotomy of the resolutions that NISBA proposes, or not proposes, but encourages, and the ones that don't. Also, however, it got later and later, and so more and more people dropped off the call. And things, I will be honest with you, they got contentious. There were people yelling at each other, because about halfway through, people started to request a motion to end discussion. So there were about 10 minutes per resolution, which is, right, it's a lot. And about halfway through, 1 or 2 people would speak, and then they would say, someone would call for a motion to close debate. And people were getting very frustrated with that because they were like, I want my turn. So I have a feeling that NISBA might have to rethink things for next year, for a variety of reasons. Another theme I want to mention, again, is quorum. So we have over 600 districts in the state. About 350 of those districts were represented at the start of the call, and 200 were represented at the end. So if you think about each of these being an up or down vote of 50%, you're talking about potentially 1/6 of the districts choosing policy that's going to be active for the next 5 years, right? These don't sunset for 5 years. And so that's another issue. And I think it's an important one to address in the future, because theoretically 101 of these districts would be setting policy for all of us. And New York is vast, and there's a lot of, rural versus urban, upstate versus downstate, whatever Buffalo is. So long story short, it was challenging. I think overall, I think it was well done, but maybe next year we'll do something different. So I will mention a couple of interesting things. So like I said, out of the first 32, 29 were approved. There were only 3 that were rejected. This is fun. 1 was rejected by 2 votes. So it was 149 to 147. And that was that was approved by 2 votes. And it was the supporting full individual Wi-Fi and cell access for every household across New York State, paid for by New York State. So, right. So there was this discussion about what does access mean? Does it mean we're paying for cell phone bills? No, it does not. But again, it just really shows you that there was a lot of division on this call. One of the resolutions that didn't pass, which was 49 to 53, was whether or not we should can the Regents exams. Yes. But it failed. But it failed because most people said we wanted to wait to see what SED does, right? Because of there's a blue ribbon commission right now. But it was very, very close. Again, this is 15 votes either way. Another one that was rejected was whether or not we need to look at paper-based versus standardized testing on computers. And again, it was 46 to 54. So 46% said, yes, we need to make sure we're doing this right, and there have to be paper-based as well as computer, and 54 said no. One of the few, okay. Sorry, I'm really tired. There's a lot of it.
I don't know why.
Yeah. I was yawning during the presentation. It's this is so interesting. I'm so tired. I'm so sorry. One of the resolutions that we were opposed to was early voting, right? Like the ability to do early voting. That passed by a fairly slim margin as well, 58 to 42. Right.
Wow.
And again, it's opportunity to do early voting, but a lot of the respondents were like, well, if the district next door is gonna do early voting, someone's gonna ask us to do it too, right? So once it opens up,
I think the problem with it is just how to execute it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
there was so much that wasn't said. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, I totally agree. Another resolution that was interesting, 53 to 47, supporting making kindergarten attendance mandatory. Again, that was very close. Then there was one that was highly contentious, that was opposing a reduction to the requirements or standards related to history and civics. And that was a 51 to 49 vote, and it passed. And a lot of people were saying things like, if you don't agree with this, you're un-American. Just really very contentious stuff, but then again, it was like 11:30 at night. So I just say that there's a problem with the process. But at that point, there were about 210 people on the call, so much lower. And then finally, there were real technical difficulties. The program that they used required people to raise their hand, and it would take up to 45 seconds to even allow them to speak. And then one person had to move, another person had to second, so even getting it to be discussed was a 2 to 3 minute process. So all of those things made for a fairly challenging afternoon and evening. I think you all received the summary of what passed. You can look through it and ask me questions if you'd like, but overall, it just shows a lot of division, frankly, within the districts, and that NISBA will be hard pressed to state that they're advocating for all of us on some of these positions when there are so many that pass through such a slim margin.
And with a small pool.
And with a small pool, exactly.
So there's different rules than what we have for voting. Because, if we're missing board members, we still have to have 4 vote to pass something, even if we only have 4 here. If there's one less, that's not the same rule, it sounds like fitness.
That's correct, and in fact, the meeting was supposed to continue because there were additional proposals that were introduced late. And once the last official proposal, like everyone dropped off, and they were like, okay, we gotta go by. So the meeting didn't even fully complete. So the whole process was problematic.
Is there any sense of, because of how crazy it was, that 56 was just too many?
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe that's the solution. It's obviously not us that can make that call, but that's the solution, maybe narrow it down to 25, you know what I mean, that everybody sort of agrees on.
I don't know what their process is for culling resolutions, because obviously there's a process for culling the ones that they are supporting. But I don't know how many more they received that they didn't put on the ballot. It could have been hundreds. So
Maybe this is unfair. This is an effective way to get a lot of people to not care what resolutions you're putting forward. If you're advocating for 50, 100 things over 5-year periods, I'm tuned out. So, just from a strategic standpoint.
Right. So it was
But thank you.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. It was informative, and I'd like to see us do better as an institution next year. Yeah.
I think your feedback is needed. I think they need to hear this from the districts, especially someone in attendance. Petra, thank you so much. You put in an incredible amount of time into this planning, meeting with Dr. Robinson, and sharing that out with the board, and talking about what we're gonna pose. Made really great, thought through decisions as to which way to go. I don't know how much time you put into this. But it's incredible. You're a great advocate for our school district, for our board, and to say thank you sounds not enough. But thank you so much for all that you've done for this.
Well, I got bun cakes. Okay.
I feel like I need to give you my bun cakes.
Three is enough. I know, of course, it's my pleasure. Yeah.
So if I can help, as far as getting feedback to NISBA, I'm happy to be part of that.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
And like I said, hopefully, I am also quite short, so hopefully that works.
That was amazing, that was amazing. I know it was definitely hard to do. So we're gonna move into our action items. We have two action items. For the first one up, can I have a motion to approve the contract with Impact? First is Tom, second is Deanna. Any comments? All in favor? It is unanimous, all in favor. Thank you very much, no opposition. The next one is for staffing recommendations. We can just go right into that. I don't need to call Jenny up, was she? She was.
No.
All right, can I have a motion to approve the staffing recommendation for the modification of appointment? First is Jason, second Stacy. Any comments or questions? All in favor? It is unanimous, no opposed. Thank you. And then the next, so that's all for action items. The next area is for the good of the order. This is an opportunity for board members to discuss salient district-related matters from a policy perspective. And actually, also Jackson, if you wanted to share anything you could at this time. Anyone? I have to give a plug for the New to Shen Fair. That is this Saturday. Hopefully everyone can make it from 10 to noon. It sounds like a lot is going to be packed into those 2 hours. Because it's also, at the same time, Dr. Robinson will be hosting his community conversation.
I'll be very brief.
That'll be very big.
Short
And it's all going to be in the here, right?
Tall and sweet.
Yeah.
It's all going to be here in the library. It's going to be, okay, a lot going on right here.
Dr. Robinson, when are you going to be discussing?
Right at 10.
Right at the beginning,
Yeah.
okay, because I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah.
And the only other reminder I wanted to share with everyone is next Wednesday, the 25th at 4 p.m. in Arrangit is our staff tenure recognition ceremony. So if you can go to that, please do. It's a great ceremony. It's like tonight, it's a highlight, celebrating our staff and teachers.
It's so much fun.
It might be.
Great.
Is anyone else? That's good, I know. It's late. Okay, so the next item is just for informational purposes, and now we're at adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? First is cast. That was a great expression. Second is Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Good night.